and welcome to episode 130 of A Gamer Looks at 40. I'm Bill Tucker, and this is the spring 2025 edition of the AMA/State of the Show address. Thank you so much for checking out this very strange, random, and hopefully entertaining episode of A Gamer Looks at 40. Today, I'm going to be talking about what to expect for the next few months from the show and answer a bunch of random questions from my very random friends who asked me, well, very random questions. It's a very strange selection of quandaries here this week. So let's just jump right into what we'll be doing over the next couple of months or so here on A Gamer Looks at 40. So, quick personal note, without getting too much into it, without going too deep into the weeds, it's been a very challenging few weeks for me on a personal level. I don't want to get too much into what's been going on. The topics can be a little triggering for some people, so to keep everyone safe as we are listening to the show, I'm going to be very vague about the things that have been going on. Suffice to say, I'm going to have to invest more time into my mental health starting around mid-May. That's about the extent I'm going to get into it. I'm going to be doing a program that's pretty intensive. It's a short-term program, but it's something that's going to take a lot of time. So I'm not sure how much show is going to be produced during the next, let's say, basically for the rest of the summer, I would say. I'm safe. Everything's fine-ish. I am not in any danger. So if that's a concern, don't worry about that. But I need to start taking my mental health and my physical health more seriously. For my physical health, I've actually started with a personal trainer at my local gym. He's fantastic. I don't feel intimidated by the weight machines anymore, and I just started a couple weeks ago, so that's been great. And to go along with the focus on physical health, I also need to work on my mental health as well. So a large chunk of the summer is going to be dedicated to doing just that, which is going to take precedence over a lot of things, including video games and including show stuff. So it's a short period. I don't think it's going to warrant an actual hiatus, but be aware that if shows start coming out slowly or start dribbling out, or if there's breaks in between, that is really the reason why. So I don't like being inconsistent as a person who creates things. I don't want to be the once in a while post a thing up type of person, and I've never wanted to be that, but I feel like at this stage of my life and at this stage of the game, I need to put some things in perspective. So that is what I am going to do, and hopefully come back better, stronger, and saner after the experience. But for the next round of episodes, next week starts collecting month. May is collecting month. I really tried hard to think of a snappy title, like a snappy M thing for May, and I just couldn't think of anything. So it's just collecting month. It's going to be a series of 4, maybe 5 conversations with collectors. We're going to be talking about what they collect, their big gets, the white whales, stories behind their video game collections, and why they do all of it in the first place. I've already conducted 2 of these interviews. They were awesome. Some brand new voices to the show, some voices you have heard since the very beginning. It's going to be a really fun range of just stories about the world of collecting retro video game stuff. So if you dig collecting, this is going to be a fun month for you. And it also gives me time to prepare and complete the interviews for Final Fantasy 8 and 9. That is all starting in June. Final Fantasy 8 and 9, I'm conducting interviews for that as we speak. They have been very interesting, a wide range of ideas and opinions and experiences. I think you're really going to dig it. It's not going to be as big as 7. 7 is the biggest series I'll do in the Final Fantasy saga. That's just going to be it. There's no way I'm doing 11 episodes on like Final Fantasy 12. Like that's not going to happen. The next biggest will probably be X, or 10. But Final Fantasy 8 and 9, I'm thinking 2 to 3 per, based on kind of what I have right now. And I'm going to be pretty selective with what I'm going to include in those episodes. That way I can keep these narratives pretty tight while still giving you a wide array of opinions and thoughts and perspectives, which is what I like to do. And then after that, I literally have no idea. I don't know if I'm going to keep going with 10. The Final Fantasy series will definitely include 10. That is for sure. I don't know if I am going to keep on keeping on after that, though. I have to make some strong decisions about Final Fantasy. What is really retro? Do I go all the way to 16? Do I stop at 11? Because I'm sure 11 will have some really cool stories. Do I consider 12? Even though, because you can play 12 on the PS4 and maybe even PS5 at this point. So anyway, I have to make a decision on that, but we will definitely do 10. Definitely do 11, and then after that, we will see, because there are some other episode series I'd like to do on the show before I even consider transitioning to other things. So, yeah. Also, one final thing before we move on to the AMA portion of the show. If you are a patron and are considering becoming a patron, you may or may not know, I do 2 shows on the patrons only feed, one called Rolling Credits, which is a show that I talk about games that I recently beat with a fan of said game, and we just talk about the game and descend into non sequiturs, just like we do with Tales from the Bargain Bin. And a second show called The Uncut Archives, where I produce or give you or present the full interviews that make up the cut up portions of the episode. I give you, and that's what's really fun about those, is it allows you to really see how the sausage gets made. A lot of the content in those interviews have been scattered around multiple episodes, but I like to put those in because they are often really good just as regular interviews. And also gives you a little window into what things were like back in, 4 years ago when I started doing this show. I always think kind of fun, like, hey, what were people talking about back in 2021? We were still in COVID panic and everything else. So those are the 2 side shows that you get if you join as a $5 patron, which is, I believe, the friend tier. I think I don't remember what they are off the top of my head, but it's the $5 tier. $5 a month gets you those 2 extra episodes. Now, the thing with that is, since Rolling Credits depends on me playing games, and I don't get a ton of time to play games, there's never a guarantee you're getting one every month. And there was a stretch there for maybe a few months where there were no Rolling Credits episodes because I hadn't played any games. That has changed. I've been able to play a lot of games. And so if you sign up for that $5 tier starting next week and for the next at least 6 months, you are going to get monthly episodes of Rolling Credits and Uncut Archives, because I have all that stuff and I'm already starting to interview for those games and I'm getting those into the hopper. So if you've considered becoming a patron and kind of are on the fence, now is a great time, because you'll get all these old episodes and you're going to get extra content moving forward. So patreon.com/A Gamer Looks at 4040 if you are interested. Enough with the self-promotion. Let's go to the Ask Me Anything portion of this episode of A Gamer Looks at 40. This time around, I kept my question asking to just my Discord and on Twitter and Blue Sky. Not a lot of responses on Twitter and Blue Sky, interestingly enough, but the folks on Discord more than made up for it. So let's jump right into those. Mawagak89 on Discord had a bunch of questions for me. So I'm going to go through them one at a time here. First one, is there any style of game that is an automatic no when I see it? Usually those are roguelikes. If it's a roguelike, I'm not a fan of roguelikes, although there are a few that I have come to appreciate. I know Vampire Survivors is one of the biggies. I believe they do consider that a roguelike because your progress resets. Another one really is anything that has to do with RTS. I'm not a real-time strategy person. Again, mostly because I don't have a lot of experience with that genre. And I'm sure there are great RTS titles out there. If there are some you can recommend, come to my Discord and let's talk about it, because I don't know the genre well, so I just avoid it because I know they can be very crunchy and I don't have enough experience with the genre. But as far as automatic no, like no way, I'm not going to play it. This is simply not a thing I am interested in. I think I'd have to say anything that involves world building. So, for example, like Civilization games. Now, I like me some SimCity and SimWorld. Those are SimCity. Those are fun. But anything that requires me to build like a planet, that is too much for me. That is too much game. So those Civilization games are really an automatic no. So I guess those would be the three: roguelikes, RTSs, and anything that's like a Civilization type game where I need to like command armies of countries against armies of countries against armies of countries. And anything that's multiplayer only. If it's multiplayer only, that's a automatic no for me. Has to have a single player campaign in order for me to be interested. That's probably the big one. I should probably write these down first. That would be the biggest one. If it's a multiplayer only game, I'm usually not interested. The second question he asks is, what game from your childhood was the most difficult to go back to when you tried it later in life? So this is an interesting question because there's lots of different facets to the answer I could give. Is it most difficult because it was just hard on the old mangled thumbs? Was it difficult because it wasn't as good as I remember? One of those games that was difficult because it's not as good as I remember was Captain Skyhawk on the NES. I played that game at my cousin's house all the time, and I remember really digging it. And for some reason, it doesn't hit with me like it did back in the day. It's a very interesting mechanic. I love the fact you have altitude in this kind of like vertical side-scrolling shmup situation. But for some reason, I don't have any fun with it whatsoever. So that's a tough one to go back to. One that's also difficult for other reasons, just because I'm not as twitchy, is probably Marble Madness. I used to be really, really, really good at Marble Madness on the NES. I think I've done an episode on Tales from the Bargain Bin. It's been recorded on the show before. And while I'm still pretty good at it, I'm not quite as good at it as I used to be. And that drives me nuts because I used to be great at Marble Madness. Great at it. It was kind of weird that I was good at that strange Milton Bradley game. But yeah, that's probably the one I would say has been challenging to go back to when I go back to it on the old emulators for sure. Other than that, though, games really hold up for me for the most part. Those are the two, though, that stick out very, very strongly. His third question is, when it comes to modern consoles, how do I choose which games to uninstall if I need more space? Honestly, I'm shameless. I uninstall it. Literally, if I haven't played it in a month, I uninstall it. And I am pretty shameless about it. I have a lot of storage on my PC. I have a lot of storage on my Steam Deck. So I really don't run into this issue too much. But here's a perfect example. There are some games I leave on my PC at all times because I know I can just pick up and play and have fun. Doom, the newer Doom was one of those where I can just pick up and jump in at any point. BioShock is one of those where I can jump in and pick up at any point, and it's not huge, so I'm not taking a ton of space. Let me actually go to my huge desktop. I got a bunch of big old monitors. I'm a big dork when it comes to it. Final Fantasy VI is always on my machine because, again, that's a game I can just pick up and play. New Vegas is always there. It never goes away because it's heavily modded, and I don't want to go through all that work again. The days and days it took of me downloading mods and installing them for New Vegas, that never goes away. Vampire Survivors never goes away. Control never goes away. Basically, if it's a fun game to just pick up and play, or if I use it to benchmark my computer when I'm doing like tweaks to it, those games stick around. An example of a benchmarking game is Dirt 5. I got that game for free from somewhere. I forget where. Maybe it was a Humble Bundle. I forgot where I got that game. But it's a neat game, and it's a fun one to just throw on the benchmark to make sure things are running properly, make sure my fan curves are correct, like to do all the geeky PC stuff I do. That's the one I like to benchmark with. Even though it's a little older, it's not a terribly demanding game. It's one where smoothness matters because it's a racing game, and you have to make sure that the smoothness is on point. So, but if I'm uninstalling it, it's if I've played it already and it's taking up a lot of space, then it usually goes away. A good example of that is Cyberpunk 2077. When I got my new graphics card in November, I kind of saw the future a bit and said, "Ooh, we're gonna have some tariff madness going on." I think methinks. So it was like Black Friday of last year, and I just went ham and basically rebuilt the computer from scratch and got new RAM, got a new motherboard, new CPU, new graphics card, the whole 9 yards. Got a lot of good Black Friday deals on stuff and saved a good chunk of money. So once I got those games, once I got that new equipment, rather, I decided, you know what, let me play some games that the thing can use. That's why I started Control, which wasn't running well on my old system, runs beautifully now. And one of those games was Cyberpunk 2077. I got about 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours into it, and it just didn't hit. Again, it's going to be one of those games where I suspect I will try it again at some point and love it. I was playing with keyboard and mouse. I don't think that's the way to play this game, even though it is kind of like a first-person-y type of situation. What broke it for me was I jumped in my car and someone just started shooting me out of nowhere, and I couldn't elude them, and reloading the save didn't help. And I'm like, this is not fun. I don't know how to get myself to like the viewpoint where I can fire back at these people. And by the time I clumsily get to that point, my car is full of holes and I just repaired it. So I kind of jumped out at that point. I just wasn't having a great time with it. So that one, which is a great benchmarking game, I uninstalled it because it's 100 and change gigs. It's huge. And I uninstalled it. So basically the short answer to that very short question is I keep certain games on here at all times if they're lightweight or I play them a lot. And if not, then if they're I just don't want to see them anymore, I just uninstall them. That's kind of how I roll with modern consoles and the games therein. All right, and we have one more. And final question from Mauga89. What do you do during extra long, unskippable cutscenes, especially on replays? If I've never played the game before, I watch the cutscene. I just watch it. I hope there's a pause. If there's a pause, I'm okay, but I just stick through it. If it's a unskippable cutscene and I've played it before, I go right to Pokemon TCG Mobile and I download a few packs, and maybe I'll start a match against somebody and get wrecked. Maybe that's what I do. That's kind of my go-to. That's kind of what I do is go to that. Otherwise, I just kind of stick with it. But that's the one thing in modern games where you have to have skippable cutscenes. They have to be skippable. It's unexcusable in modern day to not have. I understand you want the story to be told, but give me the option to blow through it if I just don't want to hear it. Because boy, oh boy, the days of those Kojima-style cutscenes where they just aren't skippable and you have to watch it over and over again if you die, especially if you make me watch it over and over again when I die. Oh, that is torturous and should be a relic of video gaming gone by. So, I just do not pass go. Go directly to TCG Mobile online and get a few rounds in while the characters drone on obnoxiously. Mike Alberton of Games My Mom Found asks a couple of questions, one of which I'm going to save for later because it's, we'll just save it for later. Mike Alberton asks, what's your favorite Scarlett Johansson role? That is an excellent question. I know ScarJo is a perennial favorite of the great Mike Alberton. Let me go ahead and pull up the. I'm not going to say Under the Skin. She's great in Under the Skin, but I'm not gonna troll you with that. That is not what I'm going to do to you. I think my favorite, as I go through the list of performances, and this is a tough one. I may have to say her from 2013. It's interesting because that is a role where you never see her. She plays the AI that Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with. Her performance is extremely nuanced. It's extremely detailed. She emotes. It's just a very evocative performance, and you never see her. So for Mike Alberton, you may not want to watch that. I don't know if you've seen her or not, because you never see Scarlett Johansson, but you hear a lot of her. She's also surprisingly good as the porcupine in Sing. And Sing is a perfectly fine movie. I have not seen Sing 2, but the original Sing is way better than it has any right to be. It's a very enjoyable, silly movie with some pretty decent covers, and she's actually quite good as the porcupine in that movie. And of course, all the Marvel stuff notwithstanding. So yeah, I would have to say her. That's probably my favorite. And I'm sure there's a few I haven't seen. I've never seen Jojo Rabbit, so I've missed that one. I don't think I've seen The Horse Whisperer. I know she's in that one. I missed Asteroid City. I know she's in that one. So there's a few I haven't seen, but of everything on my list, that is probably my favorite, which is her. Mike Alberton also asks, am I going to play Atomic Heart, made by my favorite creator who made Ken Levine, who made BioShock Infinite? Always going for that. Always going for that. I'm not going to go on a rant about BioShock Infinite. That will not be happening. I am going to play it. I own it. I bought it. It's in my Steam library. At some point, I may. I don't know how it reviewed. I didn't read much about it. It kind of came and went, which is odd considering it's a Ken Levine joint. I don't know how it reviewed. I don't remember much about it, but I do own it. So I must have put it on the old Steam wish list, paid $15 for it at some point. I have it. And because when you mentioned it, I'm like, oh yeah, Atomic Heart. Let me look that up on Steam. How much is it? Oh, it's in library. Perfect. For me, it's free. So I will at some point play that game. Kev, which is one of my wonderful, wonderful editors on Discord. He is responsible, him and my brother-in-law, who you'll hear from later on in the show. They're responsible for cutting up the full interviews that I do with people into little bite-sized chunks. I then take those chunks and build the main episodes from them. They are vital to the show's success and survival. If it weren't for them, you would not get as many episodes as you get. That's just the reality of the situation. So many thanks to Kev and Pete Harney for their help with the show. Kev asks, what games do you want to or currently like to enjoy and play with your kids now or in the future? So currently with my son, I'm always anything with the beat 'em up is good for me because we can pick it up and play. We both feel like we're helping out. So Shredder's Revenge is one that we played to completion together. It's one of the few we played together. I'd like to play more with him, although gaming is a bit of a solitary thing for him, because he's playing games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and you really can't team up on that. But yeah, anything that we can do together is good. I just don't get a chance to do as much as I can. So when I read that question, it reminded me, man, I got to play more with my son. I don't want it to be a completely solo experience for him. Not saying that's wrong, or it's not saying it's a bad thing to get lost in the world, but I don't know. I want to kind of make those memories a bit while he still wants to make memories with me, because there's going to come to a point when he's a teenager when he's going to want nothing to do with me. And I am going to be as okay with that as humanly possible because I'm preparing myself for that now. That's just how kids grow up, and it's part of it. So it's fine. It's part of growing up and becoming independent. Thank you for that question, Kev, because it reminded me I got to play with my son more because he's still at the age where he wants to do that. But the big one for us was Shredder's Revenge. That was a big one. I really want to play. I can't wait until he's interested. And I think he's getting very close to being interested in the classics I grew up with, the two big ones for me, which are Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI. I really want him to, I want to be there when he experiences at least certain parts of Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger, because I think that's going to be a very interesting moment. He's already reading some Harry Potter books. He's reading the Percy Jackson books. He's an avid reader, so he likes fantasy. And we're starting to get him into some things that are a little, not more adult, but more above his age pay grade, so to speak. And there are things in Final Fantasy VI, obviously, that are very challenging and very difficult. And there's things in Chrono Trigger, which are very challenging and difficult. I don't think he's quite there yet emotionally, but when he is, I'd like to be alongside him when he has these experiences and experiences these games for the first time. I want to enjoy them again through the eyes of a first timer. Because again, those are the type of games that I wish I could erase my memory and replay again for the first time. And I know I can't, obviously, but watching him play it for the first time as a kid, as someone who's just in the pocket for that kind of adventure, will be really satisfying. And I'm looking forward to that. So sitting alongside him and watching him play Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI, that's up there with introducing him to Jurassic Park and Ghostbusters for the first time. Those are things I want to do and be there for him with. Mike of the Distorted Illumination YouTube channel, the Mad Monarch himself, writes, any old school RPGs you missed out on that you had been meaning to play? Yes, lots of them. The Lunar series is one that people love, and I've never played. I missed out. I definitely want to do them again, especially now that we are in remake territory. But the big one, the big chunky one that I want to play is the Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest series. I've only played a bit of Dragon Warrior, the original NES one, and obviously I've never played any of the others. They're hugely popular in Japan. They were up there with Final Fantasy. I would love to know what the hubbub is all about with the Dragon Warrior series. Again, sorry, Dragon Warrior. Dragon Quest series. Make sure I'm saying that right. Dragon Quest series. Okay, hang on. Dragon. Yeah, so Dragon Quest is really what I'm looking forward to playing. I know some of them are coming out on the Switch, hopefully just the regular Switch, not the Switch 2, which I will not be purchasing right away because I ain't got cash for that. But those are the big ones for sure. The Lunar and the Dragon Quest series are definitely ones I want to catch up on because I have no experience. Philip from the Discord asks, how long have you known about Skasterday and why have you been holding out on us? Okay, because on Skaterday, we ska. That is what we do on Skaterday. Skaterday, we have to ska. That is a reference to a Stage Select, my friend Julian Titus, who does the Stage Select podcast. Justin Ham, one day talked about how they were recording on a Saturday, but it wasn't Saturday, it was Skasterday, which is interesting because back in the days when ska was popular, it was very in vogue to put ska on everything, like any band name, the Skatalites or Skavuvi in the Epitones, or everything had the word ska in it to make it ska. My favorite, of course, being Mephistopheles, which was satanic ska music, and they're so good. So they just said on Skasterday we ska, and you can do whatever ska you want. You want to do No Doubt, as long as it's ska. And I think they've been trying to keep it up, but I haven't noticed it in later episodes. It may be hidden, maybe I've just missed it. I've had my ear out for it. I'm behind by a few episodes too on Stage Select, but Justin Ham out of nowhere says Skasterday. So you know what, Philip, was new to me too, and I'm actually hurt being a longtime fan and continue to be a fan of the genre. I still get my ska on now and again. I've been known to throw on the Toasters in the middle of just on a car ride, just when I need a little endorphins, when I'm feeling a little hyper and I need music to match my mental intensity, when my brain is bouncing and everything else needs to bounce along with it. I will throw on some Toasters. I'll throw on some Edna's Goldfish. Not afraid of that. A little Less Than Jake. Never hurt anybody. In case you don't know, I grew up in the summer of ska. Was when I was a junior/senior in high school. I did ska radio in college, the Skank and Hepcat show. I did a ska podcast. That was my first podcast back in 2005. I very much so enjoy ska music, and I still do unapologetically. Yeah, and I'm well aware of some of the pitfalls. I'm well aware of some of the issues of the genre. They can't all sound the same, et cetera, et cetera. But I like everything from the early two-tone stuff to the early Desmond Decker and again, Scotalites and Madness, and from the British two-tone scene, English Beats, fantastic. So I love not just the ska music of the 90s, but even the early stuff when they were on sound systems and doing and mixing on Jamaican sound systems. I love all that stuff. Anything that's got that old school reggae vibe is great. And actually, what I like to do maybe like once a month on Twitch is I pop on and play random games and listen to ska music. And the only ska music I listen to are stuff that I actually have on MP3 in the bowels of my computer. I have a huge library of ska music from all over the country and sometimes all over the world. I had an old like 160 gigabyte iPod, if you remember those things, the big beefy iPods, and about a third of it was all ska music. Because I used to collect it, especially during that era. So I have lots of stuff that I play. So if you go to one of my ska, just hang out, play random games, and listen to ska music Twitch streams, it's a lot of fun because I play stuff you've probably never heard of, and I really like to keep the playlist very diverse. All these old compilations I'd buy at Hot Topic for $3. It had 2 good songs on it, but the 2 songs were slamming. Yeah, I have a lot of that in the archive. So, I was not consulted on Skasterday. I was not consulted. I don't even know if Julian knew I was a fan. But I hopefully next time Skasterday is announced, I am consulted. I'd like to be a consultant on the next Skasterday because I think I have a lot to offer. I think I have a lot to give to this endeavor from the Stage Select podcast. The Turbo Force 1984 on Discord writes, favorite beat 'em up in the arcades. I love a good beat 'em up. It's one of my favorite just turn off my brain and enjoy genres, especially now with the days of emulation. I think they're just a lot of fun because now I can actually get through them without spending a boatload of money. My go-to answer for this is always the 6-person X-Men arcade game, the one with the 3 screens that was in our local Pizza Hut in Clifton, New Jersey. That is probably one of my favorites, although I have played it recently on MAME, and there's not much to it. It's a pretty slight game. If you have unlimited quarters at your disposal, you can blow through that in about 40 minutes and be just fine. Another one, the Simpsons game, I always liked, but I was never good at for some weird reason. The Simpsons, of course. Ninja Turtles, of course, that's the classic. But I want to bust out one, or actually 2. One that's not really a deep cut. Knights of the Round. I think it's a Capcom game, and it is an exceptional beat 'em up, and I think that counts. And I always loved that game, and it was in one arcade I remember growing up, and I don't remember which one, but I always remember gravitating towards it. Again, knights with swords and archers and all sorts of fun stuff. A really great beat 'em up. But the other one that I always remember is Die Hard Arcade, and I believe that counts as a beat 'em up as well. I remember that game, and I think it was released on the Saturn. I'm gonna look this up real quick. Yes, it was on the Saturn and PS2. Okay, Saturn, PS2, and PS3. Okay, weird. I remember in the arcade, and for some reason, it's a really strange, it's not strange, it's just a weird beat 'em up with guns and explosives, and it's basically Die Hard, the movie, in the arcade. And for some reason, I really enjoyed it. It was always one I would plunk a few quarters in. Never got very far. I was never great at those games. But those are the 2 more deep cuts that I remember. Again, so X-Men 6-player was always my favorite, but I think Die Hard Arcade and Knights of the Round are also both very, very good as well. So those are those games. It is time once again to thank my wonderful patrons for their amazing patronage, starting with Lucas Thompson, Lindsay Harney, Philip Becker, Joey Coro, Terry Kinnair, Greg Seward of the Player One podcast and Generation 16 series of videos, the one and only Games with Coffee, the Let's Play Princess, BT Goebbels, Julian of the Stage Select podcast, Seth Sergel of the All End Media Network, and as always, the editor extraordinaire, Pete Harney. If you would like to join these amazing human beings in their financial support of A Gamer Looks at 40, go to patreon.com/A Gamer Looks at 4040, review the tiers, and sign up today. Let's jump back into the episode. Cypher Zero, who also goes by, his name is Pete Harney. Good old Pete, the other editor and editor extraordinaire of the Gamer Looks at 40 podcast. He has a couple of questions. His first one is, if I could be reincarnated as any animal, what would it be? It's funny, for the longest time I would have said elephant, but after going to Thailand and riding an elephant, I don't think I want to be an elephant anymore, especially an elephant in Thailand. I don't want to know how those elephants are treated. I want the fantasy to be in my head. I want to pretend they are beautifully cared for, that they are treated like the princes and princesses that they are. I'm sure that's not the case, but my brain, I'm not going to let my brain think about that. These elephants are taken care of beautifully. No one hurts the elephants. The elephants are safe. The elephants are secure. Long live the elephants. So that is where I'm going there. But I'm stepping back from that. I think, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I think I'd want to be a cat, not a dog, because a dog needs things. Dog is very needy. The dog is always needing something, either attention or treats or scritches or stretches. Dog is needy. My cat needs nothing. If I croaked tomorrow, my cat would be just fine for a good long time. She'd figure it out. And as much as I wish I had a big, cuddly, lovable cat, my aloof, sometimes cranky, sometimes frankly bitchy cat, I kind of is very endearing. I think I just want to be a cat and just do what I want and have no expectations. That's the beautiful thing about a cat is people expect a dog to behave. They expect the dog to sit, stand, catch, do things, perform for me. Nobody asks that of the cat. The cat does what it wants. It's very independent. She's an independent feline. She just does what she needs to do, and it's great. And she just sustains and exists in her own plane, and it's wonderful. And she's super cool. So I think I'd want to come back as a cat, because, man, but a house cat, not like a cat outside fending for itself, scrapping to survive. And I want to be a pampered house cat that's just that can just do what it wants to do and have no expectations set upon it. I think a cat would be pretty awesome. Maybe that says a little bit about my mental state as well. I don't know. Maybe these are all clues. Maybe these are all little breadcrumbs to what's going on in my brain. The second question he asks is, if I could have one superpower / magic ability, what would it be? This is an easy one. Teleportation. The ability to teleport from one place to another instantly would be fantastic. That is time savings. That is energy savings. I wish I could be like, hey, I want to go to Paris. Boop. Now I'm in Paris. Walk around Paris for a bit. Boop. Teleport back home. Boom. Done. No, especially after traveling to Thailand. I was in Thailand about 4 weeks or so ago on a mission trip with church. It was an awesome trip. We were there for 12 days. It was 22 hours of travel. 22 hours of airplane time and about 35 total travel hours, and we were literally on the other side of the world. So if it was 11 a.m. in Thailand, it was 11 p.m. in Texas. And after dealing with the jet lag coming back from Thailand, which was absolutely brutal and took a solid week and a half to recover from, because I'm old, I guess, I would love teleportation. If I could just teleport to Thailand, have dinner, and then come back home, that would be amazing. If I could just teleport to Thailand and get Thai tea and then come back with it and have it still be cold, that would be amazing. That would be so good. So teleportation would be it. Now, I don't want time travel. I have no interest in going back in time. I have no interest in seeing the future. I especially have no interest in seeing the future because I don't know how far forward I can go. I don't want to be like, hey, I'm going to go forward 300 years and boom, there's nothing left. It's like apocalyptic wasteland and I just die instantly from the fumes of the irradiated wasteland that is the Fallout universe of our world. I don't want that. I know I would go too far. I'll kind of like step forward if I were going to go forward, but I don't even want to step forward like 10 years. I don't know if we're going to be here in 10 years. Never mind 100. So I have no interest in going forward and going back. I'm afraid I'm going to get some disease that we haven't like cured yet, or we have cured, but we forgot about curing it. So it's now still there, but I don't know. I'm afraid I'm going to get really sick if I go back in time. So I'm going to stay in the time period I'm at, but I would love to teleport places to just save me time. Hey, I have a doctor's appointment at 11 o'clock. I'm going to leave at 10:59. Boop, there I am. Hello. Boy, would my mood be so much better if that were the case. Bask99 on Discord asks, if you could play with only one console and its library of games for the rest of your life, which one am I choosing? I'm choosing the Super Nintendo. Now, this is a no-brainer, stone cold for me. Not only does it have a wide variety of games, some of the greatest games ever made are on that console. It has everything you could want, from racing to sports to RPG to action. You name it, it's got it. And some of the classics are on there. Some of the games that I can play forever, like King Griffey Jr. and Mario World. I can play those games endlessly. And so if I were on that desert island and I only had one system to play with its full library, it would definitely be the Super Nintendo. That's no question. I mean, again, so many classic games on that console. I don't think I'd ever get bored. So that's the stone cold easy one. Now, Mawaga 89 had one more question, which is the counterpoint to this one, which is why I didn't say it during his initial segment. He asked, if I could force my enemy to only play one console for the rest of their lives, what would it be? That's a no-brainer as well. Virtual Boy. That is a fate worse than death. Imagine the only console, and not an emulated one, not one. No. You have to put your head into the headset. You have to load the batteries into the console and force your eyes to figure out how to make that thing work. That's actually a fate worse than death. That's almost a fate I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. But boy, I mean, if I gotta punish somebody, I'm putting their head in a Virtual Boy. Now, I understand the Wario game is really good on system. No question. No question. And I could have gone like CDI, where the only decent, where you got, your plumbers don't wear ties and Flowers of Maplethorpe and all those weird encyclopedias to go through. Yeah, I could have done that. But just the pain and the strain and the eye-searing oblivion of the Virtual Boy, that is what when I think enemy and punishing someone, I think Virtual Boy. So, and it has to be a real Virtual Boy. It has to be a real thing you have to put your face against and your eyeballs into. That is my answer. Going to Twitter and Blue Sky, Joe Cade, the one and only Joe Cade, who you will be hearing in a couple of weeks on the Collector episodes. We had an awesome conversation this past week. It was great, so I can't wait for you to hear it. Joe Cade says, and I'm going to say this very dramatically because it's Joe Cade, it's Joe Coro. I have to do this. You're approaching the buffet table. There are 2 trays of meat, barbecue ribs and buffalo wings. Which one, Bill? Which one? I'm sure that's how he said it when he wrote it. This is a much harder conversation. This is a much harder decision than I think I gave it credit for when I first read the question. I love ribs and I really love wings. Now, I don't love wings as much as my brother loves wings. My brother Bobby is a buffalo wings connoisseur. He loves wings. I like wings. But here's my thing. It really depends. And yes, I'm going to put an asterisk on this. I'm not going to just give you an easy answer. Depends on where I'm getting it. Because barbecue ribs, when made properly, are sensational. When made poorly, they're inedible. Where buffalo wings, it's hard to find a bad buffalo wing. I mean, there's excellent buffalo wings and there's good wings, and there's a wide variety of decent wings. It's rare to find bad wings, and I'm sure it exists. I'm sure my brother will hear this and be like, dude, you should have went to this one place. The wings were horrendous. I can imagine if they're scrawny, if they're all bone, there's not enough meat on, maybe the sauce is tangy, whatever. But buffalo wings are oftentimes masked with the stuff you dip it into, like blue cheese or ranch dressing. And of course, the answer is blue cheese. It's always blue cheese. That has to be the answer. I will dip in ranch if that's my only option, but blue cheese is, I think, the correct answer. But it does depend on what kind of sauce is used on it, because you don't want the blue cheese to overpower the sauce. And when those two things are in perfect harmony, the buffalo wing is gorgeous. But a beautifully made rib, like Texas barbecue ribs, and I'm not talking slathered with sauce or anything. Now, just give me barbecued meat. Ribs are something from another planet. Ribs were given to us by aliens. We did not know how to make those things. Human beings are not capable of barbecuing good ribs. They were passed down from alien generations, and we are now blessed by our by our extraterrestrial forefathers who are the masters of meat. If all things are equal, if it's now like best place each, I go ribs. I definitely go ribs, because getting my hands on good ribs is a wonderful experience, and I would go ribs. But yeah, if it was like the best ribs available and the best buffalo wings available, I would have to reach for the ribs. Excellent question, Joey Coro. Julian of the Stage Select podcast on Twitter writes, who are some of your white whale guests? I've been actually thinking about this for a while. I have some in my head. I've actually reached out to a few white whale guests, just kind of these pie in the sky, let me see what happens type of guests. A few of them never got back to me. I would love my big white whale guest, I will say, for the Final Fantasy series is, what is his name? I should probably know his name if I want to reach out to the man. I would, Ted Woosley, is that right? Ted Woosley? Yes. Ted Woolsey. Sorry. Ted Woolsey, who was the translator for Final Fantasy VI, and I think Final Fantasy IV as well. He had like 6 months to translate, maybe less, to translate the entirety of the Japanese Final Fantasy games into English. That's why you have your Spoony Bard. That's why you have all these fun little things that are in the games. I would love to talk to him. I've tried many times to find him. He has zero internet presence. I've gone so far as to find out what company he works for, but he does like private consulting now. He's a hard person to get a hold of. I actually signed up for a free trial of LinkedIn so I could reach out to him on LinkedIn, because unless you're a premium member on LinkedIn, you can't just direct message somebody. You have to be a contact with them. I've tried to reach out to Ted Woolsey, and maybe it's because I can't pronounce his name right. Maybe that's why he never returned my email. But he's a hard person to get a hold of. Some white whales that I think are probably attainable, like Howard Phillips. I'd love to talk to more people from Nintendo Power, because I find all that stuff fascinating. I would like to talk to Howard Phillips. I think he'd be a really fun interview. I think that's one of my kind of white whales as well. Uematsu, that would be a dream come true to the point where I don't know what I'd ask him. I don't know what I would ask Nobuo Uematsu. I just don't know. He's the composer, of course, for a lot of the early Final Fantasy games. I don't know what I'd ask the man. I would just stumble and stammer and be dumbfounded. I have a few that I've reached out to, some YouTubers that I really like that kind of I shot for the moon and said, hey, let me reach out to this person. Let me reach out to that person. I will name two of those people because they're both very nice. I reached out to the gaming historian to see if he would be on my show. I love his work. Who doesn't love the gaming historian? He was very nice. He returned my email within 24 hours and was like, hey, thanks for reaching out, but I don't do podcast interviews or something along those lines. But thanks anyway. And very nice, very cordial. Responded back, hey, thanks for the response. Didn't even expect one. And the other one was LGR. I think his name is Cliff. I think from Cliff for LGR of Lazy Game Reviews. I love his work. I absolutely adore it. And I reached out to him as well to see if he would just come on the show. Also very nice, but he was the one who said that he specifically doesn't do podcasts. So there you go. So, but he was very nice, responded relatively quickly. Super nice for somebody with, millions and millions of subscribers. One person I'd love to get on the show that is, he's very well known, but a little more underground or under the radar is Noah Caldwell Gervais. He is a YouTube essayist. He's a YouTube creator who does very in-depth reviews and think pieces on different video games. His most recent one was an extensive, exhaustive review of the Fallout series from Fallout 1 to Fallout 76. It was incredible. I watched all 9 hours. It was unbelievable. But the way he does his work is that it's very easy to listen to because there's not a ton you don't see his face. There's not fun production. It's just clips from the game and him talking over it. And it's a great listen. If not a watch. It's a wonderful listen. And I that's why I usually just listen to them while I'm doing work like I would a podcast. I find him to be endlessly fascinating. He is one of the most insightful video game creator types I've ever experienced. I love his opinions. I love the way he formulates his thoughts. He's one of those people that think deeply about games. And I love that. I love people who think deeply about games. He's definitely one I'd like to get onto the show. I may have to reach out sometime soon just to see if he'll be on. There's a couple other white whales too, but I think that's probably enough for now because who knows? I may reach out to these people, and I do sometimes. I sometimes just reach out to people and get nothing back, and that's fine. But yeah, those are a few of my white whales for sure. But I think the biggest white whale of all those would probably be Howard Phillips. I just need to know. I need to know because he sounds like a fascinating human being, and I think he'd have a lot of great stories. Edward Vernell from the Boss Rush Network on Blue Sky asks, do you think people will miss Nintendo's innovation if they ever close their doors? Do you think the industry can still have someone who can innovate and push gaming forward? All right, I kind of saved this one for close to the end because I'm about to get a little hot taking and I don't mean to, but I do mean to because I'm saying the words. So of course I mean to. That's the purposeful thing. I'm not disguising things here. Nintendo is known for its innovation. I suspect Mr. Varnell is saying this in regards to the Switch 2. This was right around the Switch 2 announcement, the big trailer. I think the industry would be different without Nintendo, but I think it would still be innovative. I think innovations would still happen just on a different scale or different level. I don't think the Switch 2 is all that innovative. I think the I think the Switch 2 is going to be a massive success. It's going to sell a bunch of units. It's going to make a lot of money. I don't think it's going to be the Wii U. I think it's like the Wii U in terms of iteration, where the Wii was a complete genre change, changed everything in games. That is one of the series I want to do on the show, are stories about the Wii, because I find the Wii to be absolutely fascinating and interesting. And I think there's so many good stories to be mined from the Wii's success. And then the Wii U shows up, and it was an iteration of the Wii. And it was fine, and it had some games on it. It was good, but nowhere near the innovativeness of the Wii. And then the Switch shows up and flips the script again and changes everything. Handheld console that can flop into the dock, and you have the accessibility. And it was the indie game. It was for indie games were huge on it. And it was just this massive success. Switch 2 is not all that innovative. As a matter of fact, the Switch 2 is just Nintendo saying, hey, we can't get away with our games being barely 1080p anymore. We can't get away with slow processors anymore. We need to build a competitive gaming machine. And the Switch 2 is just Nintendo catching up with the Joneses. Now we can play in 4K, and now we can do 120 frames per second, and now we have this, and now we have that, and now we have a camera, and now you can do Discord chat. And none of these things are innovations so much as they are moving up to, they're not innovations so much as they are catching up with what the rest of the industry is doing. Now, the innovations are going to be in the games, and that's what Nintendo does well. They make interesting hardware to make interesting games with. Now the games are going to have to shine through. Your Metroid Prime 4 and the new Mario Kart game and all that good stuff. I think the new Mario Kart game is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be innovative and interesting. I'm concerned about it. I wonder how it's going to be competitively. I find watching people play Mario Kart competitively is fascinating. I wonder how it's going to be competitively. If they're aiming more for the middle casual user, which is nothing wrong with that. That's who I am. I wonder how the hardcore players are going to find themselves attracted to the new Mario world. But I think Nintendo is in a stage of iteration at this point, but I'm always curious to see what they're going to do next. And I think Nintendo thinks just differently about video games, where I would be very sad to see them not continuing to push the envelope. However, I don't think that's what we're doing now. I think right now they are in a stage of iteration as opposed to innovation. I do believe they will get to innovation again, and I do believe they'll take risks. But as far as the landscape of games go, I will say, if Nintendo were to close their doors, I think video games would be poorer for it, for sure. There's no question. However, I will say this: if Nintendo stopped making hardware, I don't think we'd be missing much. Now, mind you, I'm not a visionary. I don't know. I think if they all of a sudden did the Sega thing and start releasing Mario on PS5 and Steam, I think we'd still be okay. I think if the next Zelda game was on, PS5 and Steam and Xbox, I think we'd be okay. I don't think the hardware is really what makes them innovative. It's the games. And I highly doubt I can't imagine Nintendo ever closing their doors. They're so profitable. The Switch 2 is going to sell insanely well. It's just going to, and it's going to be impossible to get for years unless you get it right at the beginning. So I guess to answer that question in not a rambling way, which I am just answering it in a rambling way, I still think the industry will innovate and push things forward because gameplay will dictate that. And I think there's enough creative people in this world, especially in the indie space, that are willing to make innovative games and innovative experiences. Much like independent cinema still has interesting movies coming out and interesting stories being told, and Marvel movies still come out and they're still fine. So we can have both sides of the coin. I don't think Nintendo is required for innovation to happen, but I do think video gaming is much richer and better that they are profitable and successful and are able to take those risks. And then finally, one final question from the one and only Mike Albertson on Discord. I Don't know why I missed this one, but let's just see what it says here. Oh, it says, oh, when are you starting Kingdom Hearts? Like with Final Fantasy. So I guess I'll save this for the end. I suppose I can say now, if you've listened to this far, you've listened this deeply into the show, I think it's only fair that I can maybe announce unequivocally and for the first time, maybe not for the first time, but definitely for the final time. No, I'm not doing Kingdom Hearts. That's not happening. It is not happening. Maybe. And here's why I say this, because in case you don't know, Mike Albertin likes to tease me, and that's fine. And he's allowed. He teases me with Bioshock Infinite, and he teases me with Kingdom Hearts. Because he likes Kingdom Hearts, and I know a lot of people who love it. Ever since I started doing these Final Fantasy VIII interviews, evidently, Squall is in Kingdom Hearts. He actually has a pretty important role in Kingdom Hearts. He's actually evidently interesting in Kingdom Hearts, as opposed to Final Fantasy VIII, where he is not interesting. But that is neither here nor there. So for the last 5 interviews I've done, and my editors will attest to this, someone has mentioned Kingdom Hearts. And they've said, so Bill, are you ever going to do a Kingdom Hearts? Mike, are you planting these things in people's brains? Are you going around, have you hacked into my computer somehow and you can see my schedule and somehow, some way are whispering in all my guests' ears, Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts. I don't know what's happening, but more and more people are asking about Kingdom Hearts. There is like a million bajillion games in the Kingdom Hearts series. And from what I understand, it's insane lore. Like it goes crazy places and becomes very confusing. And it's Final Fantasy, which I love, and Disney, which I don't know, fine. I don't like Disney just as much as the next person, but the two just don't seem to mix. Like, why would I do this? But people are giving me compelling reasons to do this, and I don't want to do this. But for some reason, people are still continuing. I don't know why. It keeps coming up. Mike Albertin, what are you doing behind the scenes? I don't know. If this becomes a gamer looks at 50, maybe then, I don't know. But gosh, I have 2 series I desperately want to do. And since I kind of teased it, I've mentioned this before. I want to do a series on the Wii, as just the Wii in general, right? Like just stories of the Wii, personal stories of the Wii. I find that console so interesting, and I got to do Metroid. Metroid has to happen before I hang up the spurs on this show and go do something else. Metroid has to happen because Metroid is another formative series for me. I love Metroid. I have played almost all of the Metroid games, most of them of its time. I love Metroid, and I want to really explore that world with other people. So that is a series. Those 2 series are probably next on the list. And then after that, I don't know. Kingdom Hearts? I don't know. Will it get a lot of clicks? I don't even know. People like these games. I don't know. But that does it for this AMA and State of the Show address. Thank you to everybody on my Discord and on Twitter and Blue Sky who responded to the casting call for questions. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next couple of months. If you'd like to engage with the show and ask your own questions, join my Discord. There should be a link in the show notes. Go there, sign up. We'd love to have you on there. I'm trying to be a little more active. I'm trying to be a little more involved in Discord. It's just hard with everything going on right now. But hey, listen, we could always use more people on there talking about games, sharing opinions, and just being as part of the community. So I'd love to see you on there. I will give you a stirring hello, how are you, when you arrive, and I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, just be kind to yourselves and each other, and thanks once again for listening to A Gamer Looks at 40. Have a great week, y'all.